Well, don't try that nice with my finger up my mouth. Sorry, I was eating something. Just had my lunch. Had myself some lasagna with an apple juice. Why not? Uh, all right, folks. Let me see. Something's wrong with the damn stream again. My my beat rate. My beat rate. What is wrong with it? Mm. Oh God. Let's see. Uh, well, as you can see, the stream is very weak. I don't know why. I have a lot of, I have a perfectly good internet. And my computer sometimes, yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on with this. Shit. Even lost my train of thought. All right. First of all, I'm going to answer a specific question on a comment that someone made. And I always answer comments as long as they are polite. Okay. Uh, this person that I won't identify because he's entitled for his or her opinion. He speaks that this is about the one I made about the tariffs and about Trump telling Walmart to eat the tariffs. The person says something like, "Do you realize that it takes 6 months from an order to China to its production and its ultimate delivery? These so-called tariffs won't affect anyone for at least 6 months, and in that time frame, trade deals will be finalized." All right. Let me start by saying this uh, to whomever I'm addressing to. I was born inside a business. Okay. My family, my father, in this case, he had two bakeries. We also we had bakery and patisserie maker. Okay. We did not export it, but we sold in the country. We sold all over the south of Portugal. We supplied some customers in Lisbon, for example, in the Algarve, and there was even some people in Spain that came to buy our products. Okay, so it was not a huge business, but there was a time we had around 20 people or more working inside the installations, okay, with us. We had drivers, at least, let me remember, 5 drivers to 5 different routes. Me and my brothers, 2 brothers, we all worked in the business. My mom, until she got sick, she also worked in the business. My father, of course, and also my uncles, they were also employees. Okay, so when you are talking business, you are talking with a person that was born in it. Okay, you are not talking with some liberal, let's call it like this, because I think in using this way of speaking about things, you will understand me better. Sitting in some apartment, you know, doing a cushy job and not knowing what actual work is. I do. Okay, I am a professional baker and a professional patisserie maker. I did it until my late 20s. When I was 30, I was doing something else. Okay, I was born learning in practice, doing it, accounting, knowing how you do a profit margin, knowing how you select your suppliers. You know, I learned how to do all of that. All right. So when I'm talking about tariffs, you tell me, you say this to me. The tariffs are will be, or in the meantime, the tariffs will be solved. Okay. What did China do about the farming products? Did it continue to buy American products, farming products, beef, soybeans, for example? Or did it simply went and bought them uh, from uh, from another from another producer? In this case, from uh, South America and pardon me, and other parts of the world. You have to understand this. The issue with the tariffs, it's the same. Look, you had uh, let me just drop an answer. All right, Chief. No cake, no cake talking. Okay. Uh, but I was when I was talking about tariffs, you have to understand this. For example, in our business, we had to buy flour. This is an example. Flour and other products, of course, but especially flour, salt, yeasts. And in flouring, I'm talking about different types of flour because if you have a professional bakery shop, you need a lot of different types of flour. Okay, even if you do the staple, for example, around here we have a smaller version of bread. We call it carcaças or pap secos, and they are meant to be used for sandwiches. So we would know that the restaurants and the supermarkets would ask a large quantity of those products. We also had the traditional bread, a type of peasant, let's call it like this, bread here in Portugal, that a lot of restaurants, for example, in the larger towns and in the coastal towns, the tourist towns, they would want that bread because we would slice it, for example, or they would buy the sliced bread and put it there. And the competition has always been fierce because Portuguese bakers are excellent bakers up to this day. You know, a good, and I know this because a friend of mine has been working in it, a good baker, Portuguese baker in Switzerland earns an average of twice the salary of a Swiss baker. Why? Because they are extremely competent, because they are extremely versatile. A good baker can make specific Portuguese type bread, Swiss bread, French bread, German bread, whatever. In my case, I could also make it because I also learned it with my grandfather. Okay, due to my ethnic background, let's call it like this. Um, but what I was trying to tell you with those part of you eat the tariffs is this: I cannot plan a business uh, in a 6 months deadline. I need to know how much I'm going to spend in acquiring the products, how much I'm going to spend with my employees, how much I'm going to pay in tax on the prices, and I don't need instability. For example, here, in the beginning of the year, the government sets the level of taxing. Of course, during the year, there are variations of price. For example, the war in Ukraine, talking about flour. War in Ukraine increased the price of flour here because Portugal has bought flour and grain, to be more specific, grain because we produce our flour inside the country. Okay, but we import a large quantity of grain because that is one of the only products that Portugal is not self-sufficient in, grain and energy. Okay, because we have been buying flour from that region of the world since medieval times. So much so, this is curiosity, if you go to Turkey, their word for orange is the same as for Portugal. And why is that? Because we used to bring our oranges that also till this day are still very much appreciated in that area because like the oranges in parts of North Africa, in Morocco, and in some parts of South Spain, they are of a variety that is extremely sweet and extremely good to make compotes, to make sweets, to make preserved fruits, all of that. So we used to go there. We in those days we still did not have a transatlantic business, so we used to take those specific products: olive oil, oranges, okay, preserved fish, a number of products, and we had that steady flow. That even with political issues with the Ottomans, it never stopped, never. And now I'm going to come back to the present after this short introduction so that you understand that I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I also have 3 years in the university of where I studied economics. I did not finish my degree for economical reasons and family reasons. I had to stop my studies to go and take care of some people of my family. So I had to stop my studies, stop being a baker, and enter in my current business line that I won't talk about for reasons that I can explain in another stream, but I won't talk about it. Just know that it's related to law and law enforcement, but I'm not a cop. Okay, now continue. What do you have here? You have Walmart. Walmart is purchasing those products in a factory in China that makes them. That factory is producing those products to be sold at that price, to be transported at that price, paying that amount of energy, that amount of taxing into the UK, to the US, pardon. And then someone comes up and says 20% tariffs. Someone speaks from the other side, 40, 40, 50, 40, until they were up, I think they reach 145% in tariffs. And now you tell me, how the hell am I going to plan a business at a 6 month notice? Do you have any idea of what that entails? If you are a good businessman, look, I'm not saying that there aren't people that are dumb enough to start a business in those conditions and to risk themselves, for example, if the tariffs increase, having to borrow money to pay to work. No, I'm talking about having a business that is self-sustainable and that gives me a profit. And people will say, well, Walmart could reduce the amount of profit that they have on the profits, on the sales. Like Mr. Trump said, they had X amount of profit last year and they could perfectly do it now. They could eat that and benefit we, the people their customers. Why do I have a business? Do I have a business to provide you with service, or do I have a business to provide myself a profit? Even if I'm providing you a service, I am here to make a profit. And the margin of profit, many times, it's very small. I have talked about also, and I like to give examples to people because I think it's far more easy to understand things when you provide a practical example. I talked with the Chinese guy here down at the shop. He's a nice guy. I like to talk with him. Sometimes we talk about everything. I go in shop, buy something, we have a chat, whatever. And then I was purchasing. I like to draw. It's the only thing I'm really good at. Drawing and playing the guitar. Okay? My talents. And I buy a specific brand of 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 pencils, of rubbers. No, rubbers. This is another thing in English. Okay, erasers. Sorry, rubbers. uh, and I, the same brand that, and I still remember this to this day. This was last year. The same brand of pencils and erasers to draw with charcoal. You understand? In a campus, the same brand that in the shop cost me around 18 euros, down at the Chinaman's shop, the same brand, it's an Italian brand, the same brand, exactly, produced in the same exact place, okay? It cost me in the shop around 18 euros and 50 cents or something like that. I bought 2 units. In the 2 units that bring 3 pencils each, I said three, yes, three. I bought it at the Chinese shop for 14 something euros. And I talked with him, look, my friend, how can you do this? And he looked at me and he said, well, you see, the normal shop, it sells you things with a larger profit margin. I want to sell more. So I cut my profit margin because I know I will be able to sell more. And in the end of the day, I will sell more units than the shop, even if I have a small profit. Now, if if Walmart was to reduce its profit margin, number one, is it doable with the tariffs being solved, even if they, like my friend said, my friend the commentator, for me, if you're not offending me, I call you a friend. And I like to receive comments and I like to explain things to people. Remember this, you would stall your business for 6 months, not knowing how much you would lose, or you would have to lose, or you have to increase or reduce the prices, or would you, from the start, find a middle ground in the value of the taxes? Meaning, if, for example, I would have to increase the price, for example, between $150, suppose this is the margin I would have. The maximum would be 100, the minimum would be 50. Or would you immediately, like they are doing, start to charge an overcharge, an increase in the price, around 75 or 80? I would. I would increase it to 100, and then I would slowly decrease it to see how much money I can lose. Lose in the sense of not having a profit. Because you see, the purpose of a business, again, and you Americans that uh, call yourselves so business savvy, that you understand capitalism, that you understand this, and that we are socialists because we give rights to people, when those rights are a bloody investment. Because if I have a worker that has the vacation days, a worker that is paid a decent pay, that worker will work better. And of course, you will find the odd person that does not work, that is lazy, but you will find that person everywhere because people are different. Okay? I remember back in the bakery, we used to have a baker that in between the times where he needed to work, he would lay in a flour bag and sleep. But when he was working, the man was a machine. So why would we care about that if the man is doing his job? Bottom line, Mr. Trump now, for example, now he's talking about applying a 50% tariffs on Europe. What do you think European businesses are doing? Because you have to understand this. What we buy from the US, and I'm talking about Europe in the sense of the EU, what we buy from the US, we can buy elsewhere. We can buy in Canada, we can buy in Mexico, we can buy in South America, we can and are buy oil from Nigeria, from other parts of the world, and also China. So guess who is getting screwed at the end? You, the American consumer. Why? Because you are going to pay more. If you are lucky enough to have the products, and you will have more difficulties in selling your goods outside of the US, you will have a number of walls barring your trading because of this. And you say, and I will repeat it, I like to repeat things so people don't misinterpret me. Do you realize that it takes 6 months from an order in China to its production and its ultimate delivery? Question. These so-called tariffs won't affect anyone for at least 6 months, and in that time frame, trade deals will be finalized. This happened to the UK, to the supermarkets that then had shelves with missing products because when the agreement became definitive, sorry, they still, from that point, they still had around a season of goods already asked for, signed for, a contract to be delivered. And the EU, of course, the producers inside the EU, they delivered it. After those 6 months, all of the paperwork fell on it. And then they either did not have the suppliers, either did not have enough money or funds. We should say this funds because you usually are always buying in advance and selling in advance in the normal business, unless you are selling hot dogs in a hot dog stand, okay, directly to the public. After that period, all of that fell down, and the results were shortages in the supermarkets because, like I said, they did not have enough funds. They did not have had enough suppliers that were willing to sell. Okay, and what is the difference to the U.S.? The U.S. is a bigger country. The U.S. has a larger self-production of a lot of goods. So exactly like I said, this is not a quick event. You know, this is not something you have to understand economics. You have to divide time in periods. You cannot measure time like you measure for a normal event in your life or whatever. You have to measure it in periods. For example, how long does it take to have a crop of tomatoes ready to be picked, packaged, and sold? You do not think, you do not think I will go to the what comes after to buy from the farmer and put it in your supermarket. You do not think of that. You think as how long does it take to do that? How many hands have to pick those tomatoes or machines, whatever? How much investment does that farmer have to do? And when does he have to start? I'll give you a hint because I know I'm not a farmer, but I was born and raised in a farm town. They would start seeding, preparing the land for the tomatoes in the wintertime still because it's made with irrigation, with water, abundant water. Okay, they would prepare the terrain after they have finished the winter crops. This is for the tomato and for corn too. In that moment that the farmer begins to prepare the land, he needs to have already people contracted to after May, June, July, August, even into September in some areas here to to pick uh, to pick tomato crops because it has to be done by hand. A machine cannot do it properly. It kills the plants and it smashes, pardon me, the tomatoes. You would have to know back in January how many people he would hire, how many people he would actually need minimum, how much he would have to pay them, how much would he have to spend in fuel for the machinery, how much he would need to buy the water from the local cooperative, sorry, how much he would have to spend in pesticides, how much he would have to spend in seeds. And now you tell me, you think that in 6 months all of this will be solved and you will not take in the consequences of what is happening now and what has been happening in the past? Do you think they are not going to grab grab that non-profit or low profit or expense or whatever and stick it on products in the future, even if they don't put it all in one go? And secondly, will the producers that are selling Walmart their goods sell them again? Would you? You're sitting in China. You have a factory that produces toys. You can send them, for example, to the US, and then, let's say, just for an example, you earn 100 euros or dollars. If you want to, you can use dollars because it's practically the same right now with the dollar plummeting. But dollars, you can earn $100 with those toys. Okay, sending them to the US, or you can send them to Europe, Africa, and you will earn $90. And suppose that your total cost of production is $50. Here is the difference. In the US, you do not know in the next years how this president or how the state itself will behave. Will they will Trump get up one morning and feel a bit anti-Chinese because he ate bad Chinese food in the last night and drop some more tariffs on China? Will he drop tariffs on one of your suppliers that you need? Will he say, for example, now if China is using EU raw materials or EU products or whatever to make their stuff, I won't admit it in the US? Let me tell you what I would do if I was a Chinese exporter, sorry. I would grab those toys and send them anywhere except the US. Because I would not take that chance. Because behind that is number one, my profit. Number two, the existence of my business itself. Number three, the people that work with me and that depend on me. If you have some kind of social concern with the people that work for you. And number four, the state taxes. Because the state won't stop charging taxes to all of those companies. Because people in the US have this idea that China is an authoritarian regime, and it is. But it works like a capitalist society. If you have a business, that business needs to produce a profit for you to do something about it. Okay, for you to exist, you can exist as long as you shut up about the politics, as long as you go about the law, you can do whatever you want. The state won't mess with it. They don't care. They want to stay in their position of power, and they want to dictate the great economical movements of the country. They want to achieve world dominance. They want to do whatever they want to do, for better and for worse. And I don't like this Chinese government and this Chinese dependence either. But what I am is a pragmatic person. So tell me again how you think these tariffs will be solved by then. Have Canadians returned to Florida? Are they buying houses in Florida again? Have Canadians begun to go to the US in tourism trips instead of going to Europe, going to Mexico, or going to Cuba, or wherever they want to go? Just this week, my friend, I saw at least 5 groups of Canadians. And this is not even a heavy tourist region. We have some heavy tourist areas near, but this is not a heavy tourist uh, zone. I live in a city. Okay, they won't return. The You have to understand trust is essential in a business. Going back to the start, when I told you we used to buy flour in advance at least 6 months, what would you do if the person that was selling you that flour failed or wanted to charge you more? Would you buy that flour from him next time, or would you go to another supplier? I'll tell you what you would do. You would go to another supplier, just like we did. It's important when you want to talk business to at least understand how it works. Because if you just try to make a comment, seeing things at a superficial level, you will I don't know, you will fail, my friend. You will fail. And I was going to make this stream about some more things, but uh, this subject is so long that it has practically taken all of the time I had available to make this stream today. Because people still do not understand the long-term consequences of tariffs. Why is this so hard to understand, for God's sake? Uh, this is really irritating to me. Really, really irritating to me. Because people seem to talk like they don't know business. Even some people that I saw on TV open their mouths to talking shit. And I'm not a super smart guy. I am not economics man. I'm just a person that knows something about the business, that can read, that can analyze things. Well, uh, uh, bye, Jeannie Bottle, and thank you very much for coming. I will be ending the stream too. No, now, please, my friend, you want to know more about tariffs? Please educate yourself. Don't fall into this narrative that all will be good. There will be consequences. And you in the US, you are the ones that are going to be suffering with it. We, your former allies, will also suffer a little bit with it. But it won't be even comparable to what will happen. Well, sorry for the long stream. I was going to talk about other things, but I had some technical difficulties in the beginning. So I will make a videos today when I can about the other subjects I was going to analyze. To anyone that came to see me, to hear me, I thank you very much.